Hey, welcome back. Another podcast from me, Kurt Bigstone, from Duggystone Radio. This is a Duggystone podcast going out across the planet on all platforms. Please subscribe. Anyway, we've got a show for you today.
The Duggystone Show.
Oh, yeah.
The Duggystone Show.
So we're going to be talking to Vanessa Wallace today. She was a heroin addict and then had a car accident. You think that'd be a bad thing, don't you? In fact, probably changed and saved her life and countless other people. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. All the amazing work she's done since that horrific accident and using her experience to help others. So sit back, relax, enjoy the show.
The Duggystone Show.
Has your business recently grown and suddenly you realise that you need a bit more structure around your staffing issues? Would you like to outsource your HR services for a fraction of the cost of employing someone? At Sage Green HR, we can create a bespoke solution to your HR needs. Our first consultation to determine your needs is free, and options vary from an annual retained contract to individually priced projects. Whether you need contracts of employment, support for a disciplinary hearing, leadership and management training, or help redefining your culture and values, Sage Green HR can offer you a solution. Please call Tanya on 07986 544 694 or email tbrink@sagegreen.com for an initial free consultation meeting.
The Duggystone Show.
Okay, people. Like I said, we've got on this podcast, we're going to be speaking to an amazing individual. And I tell you what, she can introduce herself. Anyway, introduce yourself.
Hi, my name's Vanessa Wallace, and how can I introduce myself? I'm a cognitive behaviour therapist by trade. However, I work with people with all different sorts of therapies, and I run retreats using yoga and meditation. So, I'm basically, I help people, I support people who are having a difficult time in life, perhaps have hit a time where they're quite anxious or depressed. So, yeah, that's what I do. That's who I am.
We've all been there, depressed.
Yeah,
and,
exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, at least maybe 3 or 4 in 5 people suffer with depression or anxiety at some point in life. Maybe not, a severe case, but, sometimes we go through things which are a bit more difficult, and that can make us a bit depressed. So, yeah, most people have.
Yeah, because we met it was a while back now, didn't we? We met at a networking meeting, and I'm trying to think which one it was. We met at, I can't remember which one we met at, because I've been to that many. Where did we meet?
I think it was Leicester.
That's it.
Leicester.
That's what was in my head, because you was doing. That's right, because you was doing the foresight at Leicester. I wasn't sure if it was there or Northampton, and I think we had a chat afterwards, and I said, you've got quite an interesting story, because this podcast is about few things, really. It's about dyslexia, adversity, and business. And I think the three are hand in glove, because dyslexics make amazing business owners, and, it's a business show, so top business, and, trials and tribulations affects everybody in life. So that's why I've segmented the three together, or sandwiched the three together. It might not make sense, but it does to me. So there you go. So, yeah, I think you should, if you don't mind, we'll talk a bit more about your business at the end if we've got time. But I think you should tell us about what you were talking about, your foresight, which is an informal, presentation. I thought it was really interesting for me anyway.
Yes, yeah, and that's what I thought I would talk about today, actually, because I do have a bit of a story, really. Okay, so let me just start with where it all started. Really, it was 1998, and I had a major car accident. So I literally woke up. I was in the car in the driver's seat. There was a big pool of blood in the passenger thing next to me, and I realised I'd had a major car accident. Now, I mean, few people, a lot of people have been through accidents, but for me, it was quite a life-changing accident. I was quite severely hurt. I had a couple of broken arms and a head injury. However, it sort of sprung my life into a new phase, this accident, because what had been happening to me is I'd been a heroin addict for many years.
Right.
And I'd almost been maintaining that addiction.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people didn't know that I had this addiction, and it was quite a dark time for me. And actually, the night before this accident, I'd felt really hopeless about my life, and I had said a little prayer. I'm not one for kind of doing prayers a lot, but this time I'd done a little prayer. I said, I just need some help. I need to get out of this situation that I'm in. And lo and behold, I ended up in this accident the next day, and I was admitted to hospital. Now, I don't know how many people know much about heroin addiction, but obviously I turned up in hospital and I was addicted to opiates. So they gave me opiates in the ambulance on the way to the hospital, but obviously because I was addicted, I needed more. So I had to tell somebody what my problem was. And that set a series of events happening where people started to help me. I got in contact with some services. They sent me for some acupuncture, actually, which really, really helped me.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I started this journey of recovery. It took quite a long time. But the long and short of it is that I did get well. Yeah. I got off the drugs. I went to rehab. That was a long journey. I was a year in rehab. I had to learn all about myself and what was going on with me. And essentially, I had really, really low self-esteem, self-worth. My addiction was all about me not fulfilling my purpose, not being who I knew I could be. I come from quite an academic family, and I kind of knew that I was failing in lots of ways and not achieving my potential. And that was the way that I coped. Yes. Rightly or wrongly. That was the way I coped.
No, and I'll just interrupt you there a second. I think that when I was speaking to someone on my previous podcast about this, there's a lot of pressure from family, from social, from education about being this ideal person and this thing that other people expect, and it puts immense pressure on people where even young lads commit suicide because they don't think they're worthy enough, they don't think they're good looking enough, don't think they're clever enough, and that's probably what you're experiencing. You're putting yourself under that personal pressure, really, to be this amazing person that you think everybody else thinks you should be, and it's not always the case, is it?
Absolutely. And I think there was no in between with me. It was either I did that and I achieved all these wonderful things and became a doctor like a lot of my family, or I just went down the other route and felt like I was a complete failure. So there wasn't anything in between. So that middle ground just wasn't there for me. Yes.
Yeah. So what you did, you took like a lot of people have become addicted to anything, can be drugs, alcohol, sex, anything. It tends to be just to try and fill the gap, doesn't it? And it doesn't solve the problem, does it? It doesn't solve it. It just doesn't do anything for you, really, does it?
No, it totally didn't. I mean, it just, as I said earlier, I just ended up in this really dark place in the end where I was like, I just don't want to live anymore, actually.
Sad.
I felt completely hopeless. So, yeah, I mean, the car accident was a real turning point for me.
Yeah.
And, started a journey for me of recovery. And then 4 years later, I went and trained as a therapist myself. And I'd always wanted to work in prisons. Don't quite know why.
Yeah, I don't know why either.
No.
Go on.
But I ended up, I got a job in a prison, which was absolutely amazing. And I worked on a drug treatment program in a prison for probably about 12 years in total. I was terrified when I first started working there, but it was so amazing seeing these guys coming through this program and coming out the other side and not reoffending, because a lot of them were in there because of this same reason, of this addiction problem. And they'd found a lifestyle which they'd fitted into because it was around the drugs, it was around theft, to get the money for the drugs. And actually they were very, very talented people, very clever people who, could actually really achieve a lot. So with the support of the organisation I worked for, we would help people to go back out into the community and live better lives. We had quite a good success rate with that. So that was a real turning. It was amazing working in that place.
Yeah,
I had a couple of instances. There was a radio station in the prison, and there was an incident one time, and I was working with an individual, and we were in the radio station, and I don't quite know why, there was nobody else down there, and there was an incident, and they locked all the doors, and they locked us in this radio station place, and it was literally, it was locked so tight. Once the doors are locked, they're locked. So there was me and this prisoner in this radio station area, and we actually couldn't get out of there. We couldn't get anybody's attention. It was quite scary, really. I think it was more scary for him than it was for me, because obviously, we were stuck in there on our own.
Yeah.
Eventually we got out. There was many incidents like that where, the officers would just come charging along the landing, and you were just shoved into a cell because, unfortunately there's a lot of incidents in prison. It's been getting a lot worse recently, as far as I've heard.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it was an amazing time working in there, and eventually, I've now set up my own business. But one of the people that I follow a lot is Brené Brown. I don't know if you've heard of her.
No,
she's an amazing speaker. She's a researcher, actually. She researches on shame.
Right.
And one of my problems with sharing my story has been shame, because I feel quite ashamed that I was a heroin addict, and that was part of the whole reason, the reason that I continued, really.
Yeah, and that's interesting for me, and probably for the listeners, because when people say heroin addicts, they've got this vision of someone lying in a squat, covered in filth, and injecting, and and people think the drug addicts are drug addicts, they're scum of the earth, don't they? So there's a stigma there with it. But when I listen to you, and I'm sure loads of people listen to you talking, and I saw you, I was quite inspired by you being quite open about what you'd been through and what you'd actually done to yourself. I think I didn't look at you and think any less of you. In fact, I felt more respect for you for doing it. Does that make sense?
Yes, totally. And I suppose part of the reason that I want to share about it is because if there are other people out there who are struggling with a addiction, say if it's alcohol, drugs, cocaine, there is a way out. And sometimes it does involve just telling somebody and breaking down that shame, because actually there's a real strength in just putting your hands up and going, yes, this is my problem. I need help with it. I was forced into that situation through that car accident. I don't know how many years I would have continued going. Probably many more years.
You'd have probably carried on until it destroyed you. And,
absolutely. Absolutely.
And you were forcing it to, because I was quite interested, and just flick back to that a bit. When you obviously addicted to heroin, which is an opiate, and they gave you opiates, so that was not, I presume, the amount of opiates they were giving you was not taking the pain away from, and that's why they were giving you in the first place. Is that correct? Is that the reason?
Absolutely, yeah, because I had the 2 broken arms.
So you were like, you've just injected enough to kill a horse, but sorry, you need to get some more in there because I'm in agony.
Yes, absolutely, and more so on the next day and the day after that, when they give you morphine for pain relief, and then it's like once you're over the pain it's okay, but for me it wasn't, because I had an addiction.
Yeah, tough. Yeah. So sometimes these things force you, the incidents happen to you at the time, you think, oh my goodness, this is not right, I didn't want this, but it can turn out to be the best thing ever. So I would not wish anyone to have a car accident. You would not purposely want to be having a car accident, but a car accident has probably it's probably saved your life, and I'm going to add, saved countless other people because of the good work that you're doing.
Absolutely, yes. Yeah, I mean, it just astounds me sometimes. I have to pinch myself when I think about the life that I used to live, which was very much, I was in a cottage in Wales, isolated, I'd go out to my dealer, come back. I wasn't good for much, really. I mean, the jobs that I had were, and no disrespect to anyone who has these jobs, but I wasn't fulfilling my purpose. I was working in a hotel. I was cleaning hotel rooms. I wasn't able to maintain anything that required any responsibility because I could hardly look after myself.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah. So, it's, but the thing about the shame and the being open about, my story it is important to me, because I do want to put a message out that, recovery is possible, that, things can change in life, that, get some help, get some support, which is what I do for people now today. But Brené Brown talks about this thing called a shame bath, and sometimes when we do share things about a past that might be a little bit yucky, which I feel mine is, I mean, after this interview, I might be going, oh God, why did I say that? Or, oh, what people are going to think of me. And I mean, you said that, you were in quite a lot of admiration of me, but there's parts of me sometimes that doesn't believe that, because, the addict is seen, as you say, in the squat, dirty. That's what our what's the word? What we typecast addicts as, and it's all wrong, really.
Yeah.
There are people out there who are addicted, who are in good jobs, and they may be kind of really hurting inside, but they're still maintaining an outside almost image, which it may not be really what's going on for them inside.
Yeah, we never know. We don't know what people are going through, do we? And some are, I know it's not the same way. If you look at some of the stars that have been affected by things, and one that springs to mind is I'll say it wrong, Robin Williams, and committed suicide. And everyone would look to me on the outside going, oh, what an amazing life. He's loaded, he's, famous, he's got everything he ever needs. And a lot of people think, it's not always. And then, so what you see on the outside is not always what's going on inside. And I think another one to really relate to, sort of relates to what you're talking about, is Ant Dec, is Anthony, from Ant Dec. He obviously, there was, everyone was slagging. It really got to me when people were like, oh, basically hanging because he was drunk and he's had he shouldn't be drink driving. But there was an underlying problem there that had got him to that point where he chose to jump in a car and he'd had a couple of beers and he'd had an accident. And he ended up addicted to prescription drugs, quite strong ones that you can get in the States, because of pain in his knee. And but he was still functioning. He was still functioning as a performer, and that's why he was taking them. So on the surface, he looked absolutely fine, but inside he was going through a living hell, wasn't he?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And it's funny you should say that, actually, because I actually work with more and more people who are coming forward who have prescription drug addictions now. And it's quite a serious business. And, I mean, no disrespect to the doctors, I think, but, I think there's a lack of awareness sometimes of how certain drugs, can become addictive, like the codeine-based drugs,
the
Valium.
Yeah.
And, I'm working with quite a few people at the moment who are afflicted with these types of addictions. And it's a journey and a half to come off them.
Yeah.
And, it's not just a matter of just detoxing, because your feelings go all over the place when you're trying to come off drugs like that.
Well, I've got personal experience of that, because obviously, and I don't like going on about it, but I had some brain surgery in October 2019, right?
Yeah.
And what they gave me when I came out was a strong codeine. And my wife's really bothered because I think I have got quite an addictive tendency. So I could get, you know what I'm saying? She's like really bothered because they give me these drugs. You're not supposed to be on them for 3 days or something, are you? I think I had them for just over a week or a bit more than a week.
Yeah.
And then went, right, I'm stopping taking them because, well, they mess you up internally anyway, and they give you, you can't go to the loo and all sorts of stuff.
Yeah.
But I was sat there and I said to her, this scares me. These scare me. She said, why? I said, because I have 2 of those tablets and I just feel absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
I take them and a couple of minutes later, I'm like, warm glow comes over you and I just go, Ah, that's nice. And I can empathise and sympathise with anybody that's if anyone has a go at someone that's addicted to prescription drugs and what have you. Now I'll go, no, you're wrong. You don't know how easy it is to get on them. You don't know how that makes you feel and why I could quite easily have carried on taking them and not bothered, and then I'd be in a similar situation that you was in and Ant was.
Yeah, yeah. And you're lucky that you had the awareness and your wife, was able to kind of say to you, this is a bit worrying, because some people, they don't have that awareness that actually you can become addicted. And so you get prescribed them and you're not given that information. And next thing you know, it's like 8 weeks down the line and you find that you're addicted.
Yeah, and it doesn't. And also, when I did come off them, my emotions were up the wall anyway because of what I'd gone through.
Yeah.
But when I came off them, I was dead emotions. I'd start crying for no reason.
Yeah.
Or 1 minute I'd be laughing my head off, then I'd be really down, and I was like, what's happening to me? And I can only presume it's a combination of both surgery and probably more importantly the tablets that caused that to me. And it was really bad. It was really bad. I didn't enjoy it at all. Not a good experience.
Yeah. So it is becoming more and more common, or more people are recognizing that this is happening. I think the addiction to prescription drugs has been around for many years.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, Valium, everyone should say, don't you? Oh, like tea, as a joke back in the day. What, do you want anything in tea? Yeah, stick some Valium in it. Do you know what I mean? There's a couple of, and I know joking, sorry, I'm not trying to belittle it, but you're right, Valium was just one of those, I don't even think it was seen as a problem, was it? Oh, I'm on Valium. Yeah, good. Make you feel good. Yeah. So having said all that, you've had your accident, you've got yourself clean, as it were. You've gone and helped a lot of people in prison. And I always said, I don't know why you worked in prison. I know exactly why you worked in prison, because that's an amazing thing to do, really. It's not a good environment, but there's people in prison that shouldn't be there. But anyway, that's another story. So you've taken all that experience and you're training and developing. And now, so tell us a bit more about what you do with people, clients, customers, however you want to describe them. What do you do with them then? What's the process?
Okay, so with the program that I developed, so I lost my job in 2017, and through no fault of my own, I was just laid off, and I had this program in my mind, having worked in communities and rehabs and residentials. I just feel that it's really important for people to go away for 3 days, or a few days anyway, and have that space to reframe, to be away from stress, so that they can sort out what's going on in their mind, sort out their emotions, their thoughts, be around people who support them and people who are going to listen to them and understand. Because I think a lot of people find that, you've got a problem and you don't want to bore your friends with it every day down the pub. You don't want to put a burden on your family and friends. So being away with other people who are going to listen to you and having that purpose, it has a real benefit to it. Just being able to be you and to talk honestly about what's going on. So that's the reason I run the residentials and take people away for 3 days in that safe environment. So we learn about mindfulness. I mean, mindfulness is a massive subject, and there's so many different forms of mindfulness. It's not about just sitting and meditating or focusing on your breath. There's lots of different ways to be mindful. We go out for walks in the country. I work with an amazing therapist called Lorna, who she's used mindfulness to manage pain. So she's really good on different techniques, and she uses the environment, countryside, and takes everyone out on walks. So I talk about cognitive behaviour therapy, positive psychology. I mean, we look at changing our brains to be more positive, and because a lot of people get into negative ruts and find that actually they've got automatic negative thoughts. Yeah. And a lot of those thoughts sometimes are about ourselves. So I obviously relate to that because I had huge negative impressions of myself and negative self-talk. So it's all about turning that round and learning ways to turn that round with the support of other people. So it's a 3-day program. We also look at your visions and values and who you are as a person, because for me, not living in my purpose was a real problem for me. I was feeling dissatisfied with myself. I felt, underachieving, and I didn't feel happy. So we look at that with everybody, and people connect with who they truly are and what they truly want to be and what inspires them. I mean, we had a lady on our last retreat, and she did this image of all of this colour, and she wears black most of the time. And we were like, you need to wear these colours. They were turquoise and orange. And, she's now gone, and she sent me a message the other day saying, I'm wearing my turquoise and orange, because it makes her feel good. It's who she is as a person, not just dark colours. So lots of different things come out for different people. It's very individual, really, what comes out. But basically, it's about putting people back together again and giving them a formula to move forward in life with a new purpose, a new happiness, and just to live the rest of their lives connected to who they are, really, and being in their own truth, but also having a more positive outlook. So it's quite transformational for people, really. I also work with people after the retreat. So we have one-to-one sessions via Skype, and it's just to help people incorporate what they've learned into their life back home. Because sometimes when you go back to normal life, it's very difficult. You kind of get back into the old habits. So I'm there on the end of the Skype call to just keep the momentum going for the 3 months after the retreat. I absolutely love my job, Kirk. It's amazing. I love working with the people I do. I have people who come back developmentally, for other retreats. So we've just had a lady who's come back for her 3rd retreat, not because she's got unwell again, but because she wants to continue growing.
Yes.
Learning more and developing more.
It's like that. I mean, the dialogue that we tell each in our head that we're talking, that's we're our worst critics, aren't we? And absolutely. I see it a lot of times with people. These the very negative self-doubting and the dialogue they go through on a daily basis, which is very harmful. And I think you're right. Someone going back again, it just keeps them on balance, doesn't it? Keeps them on track, and we all need a mentor or a coach or someone to believe in us that keeps pushing us forward. And I can understand totally why someone would want to come back, just to keep that positive vibe going.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So the retreats then, where are they based? Are they based all over or near you?
Yeah, this year we're doing 5 retreats. So we've already done one, which was down in Arundel in West Sussex.
Oh, yeah.
We're running one in Buckinghamshire at the Horde House Hotel at the end of March. And we're also going back down to Arundel in May. And then in September, we're going to Yorkshire, which is our first time up in Yorkshire.
Yep.
And then we're back in Buckinghamshire in November. So they're all over the country.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Brilliant. What we'll do, for everybody, we'll put on the show notes for the podcast, we'll put those dates and those links. Obviously, this podcast will be out there for a while, so the dates we're talking about is 2020. So you're listening after 2020, then click on your website and you'll find some more information there. So, just make that as a point, because people might be going, it might be 21 when they're listening, going, she's down in Arundel. It might be somewhere else then. So
yes, yeah. But I don't plan to stop doing them anytime soon.
No,
so,
cool.
Yeah.
You shouldn't do either. So how many people do you tend to have on a retreat then? Is it just 2 or 3 people, or is it a big group, or does it vary?
It tends to be between 6 and 10 people.
Yeah,
that's my average. 10 has been the top, and sometimes we've had 4 people, but it's averaging out about 6 or 7 people.
It's a good group. When we do our podcast training, we like between 5 and 10, because it just feels like it's a nice number. It's manageable for us, and it's not too big for the people in the room as well. It's a nice, because going back tribally wise, we as a species normally interact with about 10 people, normally in small tribes of about 10 people, and I think above that you struggle to have the relationship. So that's why it's probably a good number.
Absolutely. When I worked in the prison, we would never work with a group of larger than 12, and when we did have 12 people, it was difficult because people would get lost. at the back of the room, wouldn't
Yes.
get a chance to say things. So, yeah, you're absolutely right that it's a perfect number for a group, especially a group where you're going to have in-depth discussions and, you want people to come away with something. So, yeah, it's an ideal number.
And it must be quite tough, that, because people are coming on a retreat. They've obviously taken a massive step to say, I'm going to go on a retreat in the first place. They've had to realise something, or there's a reason why they've done that. But they must also, once they get to the retreat, I bet you find some individuals reluctant to open up, or do you find that generally because they're in a safe environment, they tend to generally open up? I'm not quite sure. Does that make sense? Is that right?
Yes, it does. It makes total sense. And you know what? It's different with every group. But what I found generally is because it is, once people get there and they feel it is a safe environment, they do tend to open up. And I mean, because I've run group therapy for so many years, I am skilled in supporting people to feel safe in a group, but also to open up to a point where they're going to feel safe within, so nobody has to share anything they don't feel safe with. Sometimes I've been on the phone to people coming to the retreat because that anxiety kick in. And I had one lady, she only got halfway and then she went back home again. She did eventually come the day after, but it's such a massive step sometimes for people to take that leap of faith into making some changes and going within a group of strangers. So I do everything I can to make people feel supported beforehand, to support them in that journey to actually getting to the retreat and getting through that door. So I make sure that we've had a Skype call so they know my face. They sometimes can be part of my webinars before they come on the retreat. So they feel safe before they come. But generally the group is just always so lovely. I always feel the group, I don't know what other kind of powers that be organise a group for me, but I don't feel it's anything to do with me. The group always seems to come together and always is a perfect group for that particular time. And, people gel and they get on with each other, and quite often they will have a WhatsApp group that they'll still stay connected
Brilliant.
with each other afterwards. And, of course, then they get that support from people who understand them.
Excellent. No, it's really good. And I'm hoping that, well, the reason why we do this is for people to find information out, and there'll be someone out there that's in need of some help, whether it's from yourself, hopefully, or from someone else. And that's the main thing. We want people to get better, don't we, or realise their self-worth, which is the whole purpose of it. So I think it's a good point to finish our conversation, but obviously we want people to be able to get hold of you and get some more info. So where's the best place for people right now listening going, I think I need that. I want to know a bit more about that course or the retreat. So where can people go to?
Okay, so my website is crystalclearcoaching.org, and on there is everything that I do and all the retreats that we've got coming up. I also have a Facebook page called Crystal Clear Retreats, so you can pop on there and find me there as well. Excellent.
And like I said, we'll put all the notes in and all the links on this down there. And if anyone wants some more information, if you just do contact at Duggystone Radio, we can help you out. And the podcast will be all over on Spotify and iTunes and God knows where it goes. It goes everywhere. So is there anything you want to add before we go and before we say goodbye?
Just one thing. And there's a book called Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. And, it's a great philosophy of mine is to, if something feels a bit scary, just do it anyway, because you just don't know what's on the other side, and fear can really hold us back. So, if anybody who's listening and you are thinking, whether it's to do with coming on a retreat or taking that step to go and get some help for something, that you're struggling with, feel the fear, but do it anyway. You won't regret it.
Wonderful. And I'm pleased I could share you with the world, because I was really inspired when I met you, and I know it took a while to get you on the show, but thanks for sharing all that information with us. good luck with everything you're doing this year and beyond. And take this the right way. I'm so glad you had that car accident.
Thank you, Kirk. And it's been really great to be on this with you. And thanks for inviting me.
No problem. Thanks very much.
Okay. Bye.
Really enjoyed that. Thanks, Vanessa, for spending the time with us. This was produced by me, Kurt Bigstone, for Duggystone Radio and the Duggystone podcast, going out on iTunes, Spotify, everywhere, YouTube. So if you're affected by what we've been talking about today, or you know someone who's affected by it, why not have a chat with Vanessa? I'm sure she'll have a conversation with her. All the links are in the show notes for the podcast. If you can't find them or you're not sure, send me a message, Kirk, that's Kirk, at Duggystone Radio, DUGGYSTONE radio.com. And I'll try and answer your questions and I'll hook you up with Vanessa. If you want to know a bit more about me and what we do, we run an online radio station as well as producing podcasts. So go to DUGGYSTONE Radio, Duggystone Radio. The link's in the show notes. Or you can say, oh yeah. No, you can't say that. Just say, Alexa, open internet radio. Or if you've got a Google device, just say Google. Okay, Google, open Duggystone Radio, or go to duggystoneradio.com. You can listen to us. And we've got apps as well. If you've got an interesting story, please get hold of me, and if it intrigues me, I'll get you on the show. So until next time, bids you farewell. If you want to learn how to podcast as well, that's another thing. Contact me. We do some one-to-one training. We also do training around the country. We can come to your place of work and train all your staff because the power of podcast is growing. And you're listening to one. So if you're listening to one, so are your potential clients. Thanks for Sage Green HR for sponsoring the show. Until next time, see ya.
The Duggystone Show.